Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, and semiconductors got absolutely demolished today, keeping the mode in a restrict mode because the market breadth continues to deteriorate slightly, even though the advancers to decliners was about 49% advancers, 46% decliners, and we saw some real damage to mega cap and growth leadership, and today that spread into the semiconductor trade that has been carrying the market all year long. The Nasdaq dropped 2.1%, the S&P fell 1.3%, and the Dow held itself together. Same thing with the small caps for the most part. Same rotation pattern as yesterday, but perhaps a little bit worse underneath. But even though it was mainly confined to semiconductor names, and what triggered this was a Bank of America note flagging rate hike risk, and combined that with the overnight tumble in Asian markets, specifically the KOSPI, which is the South Korean index, that sent semiconductor stocks sinking. Samsung was the big culprit in that, and that just spread into the US markets with those semiconductor names. Micron was definitely the worst of it, down 11.4%. Qualcomm dropped 6.9%. Western Digital fell 8.4%. And Taiwan Semiconductors lost 5.2%. And this hit the entire chip supply chain, not just one name. But on the other side of things, old school names such as IBM called a bid, up 4.2%. Accenture up 3.3%. Oil, still keeping an eye on that. It slid a little bit as we continue to watch the whole Middle East talks continue to go on. So we've had 2 days of mega cap, and now today we've had some semiconductor weakness. That is enough to definitely take seriously. What we need to keep in perspective is that a lot of these semiconductor names have run up a lot. LMU is still up 250% on the year. So a pullback on some of these names, yeah, it does make a whole lot of sense. And even if we do get, like, say, a 30%, a 15 to 30% pullback on some of these names, they're still going to be up quite a lot on the year. So keep that perspective in mind. But we definitely want to watch whether this is going to continue to be contained as sector rotation or if it turns into something more broader. So keep that in mind. We also want to keep an eye on the market breadth, make sure it's not deteriorating from here. And of course, I'll downgrade my posture as well if that is the case. Let's take a look at some intraday charts, mainly the SPY and QQQ volume profile session. We can see that we did have a pretty significant gap down to about 732.50. We did catch a little bit of a bid, some short covering all the way up to 739.20. A nice little 7-point move, but as you can see, we finally stabilized and just pretty much traded sideways for the remainder of the session. You can see here on the volume profile that we do have multiple areas of distribution, so I am going to call this a B-shaped volume profile. We did close here at the lows. That is notable. If the bulls want to make a stand tomorrow, we definitely want to see a push over this 739.22, and we can start looking at a full gap fill around 744. However, if things do want to continue to spill over, we definitely want to zoom out and see what levels we are talking about. Let me zoom out to about a 15-minute chart here. You can see if we start to lose this 732.50, today's low, we do have some room to retest this volume area low at about 728 as well as 726. That would be my downside targets if we continue to see pressures to the downside. As far as the QQQ, we pretty much have that same dynamic here where we have multiple areas of high volume distribution and we close down here at the lows. So bulls definitely have their work cut out for them. We do want to see a reclaim of about 723 in order to potentially move higher to fill this gap. Of course, the Qs have a higher range to take over if that is going to be the case. and we need to see if those semiconductors will eventually catch a bid. But if not, we want to zoom out, see what our next levels are. If we start to lose 713 here, yeah, there is a case to be made that we could see a retest of that 700 whole number. That will be a psychological number. But below that, there is some broader support down here between about 696 and about 690. So those are going to be the levels that I'm watching tomorrow. As always, trade safe, be smart, and have a good one. I'll see you in the next one.